Hello and welcome. If you've just joined, we'll give it a couple of more minutes before we start. So feel free to put in the chat your name and where you're from, and if you currently work in a nursery setting or if you're just interested. Hello, if you've just joined. We'll get started in just another couple of minutes. If you'd like to say hello in the chat and say your name and where you're from, feel free, or grab a cup of tea. Hello to Ollie there from Belgium. Fantastic. And hello to Ruth. And to Clarice. Thank you all for coming here on your Friday evening. So my name's Catherine Miller, and I work at Robert Gordon's College in Aberdeen, which is an independent school teaching from ages 3 to 18. In the nursery, we have specialist teachers. I wrote the French curriculum and enjoyed teaching there for 13 years. This is my first year not being timetabled for the nursery, so that's unusual for me. But we felt we wanted to build on what we were offering. So not just the language lessons, they also have Mandarin, so they would have their language French lessons, they'd have their language Mandarin lessons. We wanted to make it so that they had access to multilingual resources without there needing to be a specialist there, without there needing to be an adult who would lead the language. And also, we wanted to celebrate the many languages that our children speak at home. So that was where this started from about a year ago. Linguistic diversity is important in early childhood education. There are so many advantages of exposing children to multiple languages from an early age. It stimulates brain development, it enhances their problem-solving abilities, it boosts critical thinking skills. But also, it's very important for cultural sensitivity and inclusivity, fostering an inclusive environment and celebrating the diverse backgrounds of the children. So my challenge was to find resources that were going to work for us. And I found it actually very difficult to find any resources out there saying, hey, this is what you should be doing. This is what would be really good practice. So I was trying to judge what would work best for us and be the right resources and the right methods. So the first step was I went through the children's files to find out which languages are spoken at home. When you're considering which language resources should be in, I think it's really important to not just go, I'm going to go this one and this one, but actually to think, oh, what's been spoken at home? So this means that the resources have to change on a regular basis. Perhaps this year we have a Spanish speaker and next year we don't, but we've got a Hindi speaker. So being able to change the resources was quite important to us as well. So one of the first things we got were, I'm just going to grab it off my wall, because I forgot to take it over. These recording pads, they come in squares and become larger, smaller, and they're really great for, because you can just have a little snippet, you can record it, it can go onto a display, so you could label the things within your nursery. Maybe you've got a nice display of animals and you choose a language and you have these on the display and they can press the button and hear the other language being spoken. They were from, these particular ones were from TTS. They have a big disadvantage in that the record button is right behind the play button. So if you just stick them on the wall, whenever they hit play, it records over it. I've tried everything to destroy this button. It's indestructible. So what I do is I make a little blue tack donut. And that way, when they press it, doesn't matter how stabby they are with pressing the play button, it's not going to accidentally hit the record button. Because as soon as you press that record button, hello, you've recorded over the top. So a little blue tack donut saves the day. But these are fantastic. I use them all over the place because their children love to press a button. So it's great for them to have, because they will press it. They will listen to it. They will repeat what they hear as well. So it's brilliant seeing them engaged with the displays in that way. So that was our first step. Then we made similar thing. Sorry, that was a display talking there. But we went bigger. So this is a fantastic display. It wasn't expensive. None of the resources I went with were expensive, because it was, we're trying to work out what would work for us. These did work for us, but I think this was £30 for this huge recording one. Each box can be recorded differently. And for this particular one, we went with different languages that children in nursery spoke. Initially, we did it was their group names, which were animals. So we had crocodile, rhinoceros, and so on. Now it's colours. I'm in a very lucky circumstance, because I worked throughout the junior school as well as the nursery. And it just so happened that most of our bilingual children had an elder sibling. So I went round the school and got their older siblings to record for them. So first of all, let's say the language. And then the colours in the language. So this is Sinhala, which is a language from Sri Lanka. I don't know how well that's picking it up. But again, this is a resource that kids love to push a button. So they love to listen to this. It's lovely for the younger children to hear their elder siblings speaking. This could also, of course, be done with a parent recording, so that it can be heard. It's really good to get a bilingual person doing it, rather than, and especially if someone connected to the children. That said, I couldn't find anyone in the school who knew their colours in Hindi, so I used Google Translate. I wouldn't recommend that for a whole display, but for an emergency, I need a few bits. I typed it in, and then I recorded Google saying the colours. It's not as nice as having family members recording, but it did the job. And so again, that's one that got the children really into using it. Just another walking past basis. It wouldn't necessarily be an activity to spend a long time with. Sometimes it would be, but more in walking past. The last audio resource we created was using the talking tins. That's not my type. Sorry. These ones here. To be honest, I chose them again because we didn't know what was going to work. This is the longest recording you can get for the cheapest price. So it was the best value of recording. You get 80 seconds, and 80 seconds is long enough for a That's Not My Book. The That's Not My Books are brilliant for using with a different language, because the children know the layout. They're all the same. That's not my whatever it is. It's whatever part it is, and then the texture. And they all follow the same. It's not my tiger. Its ears are too fluffy. And they love to look at them. They love to touch them. And always the last page, that's my, in this case, tiger. Its tail is so soft. So we recorded with the talking tins, and we went for these books in English, because as I said, we want to be able to change them every year. We don't want to be there, and we've bought a whole pile of resources in Bengali, and then they go in a cupboard for 10 years. By having the book in English, any member of staff can help. If a child comes and says, what is this bit? And it's not, I think they're all textures, but some of them are, this one's, oh no, this one's a texture smooth, but sometimes it says shiny for textures like that. They might ask. And so we can translate straight away, but we can hear it in the other language. Now, this was recorded earlier today by a friend's daughter because it accidentally got recorded over. And so it's a bit too fast. You want to give them time because they like to have a good scratch at the texture, and then they need the time to turn the page. So they know when to turn the page. We used a buzzer.
Tiger in Spanish. When you hear the turn the page. Este no es mi tigre. Tiene la nariz demasiado peluda.
So I hope that the microphone was able to pick that up to give you an idea. So we have these in multiple languages. We could hear brilliant. We have these in multiple languages in the nursery. That's not my tiger. That's not my witch. That's not my dragon. They're a fantastic resource. Children, they love to push the button. They love to touch the books. We did learn from it, put it in a folder together. And also, this one's a bit of an odd one. If I look at this, I put a really, really boring sticker on it. So that's fine. No one's moved the record button to the play. They've ignored that completely. This one, I put a sticker of a smiley baguette. And so a child has removed it. And the record and the play are right next to each other. So it needs a sticker over it so that they can't change that. So boring stickers, put a boring sticker over the top of it. But yeah, so the children love to listen to the stories, touch the pages. So they really interact with that resource without knowing what all the words mean, but they're listening to it, they're hearing to begin with which language it is. You can, of course, get much longer recording devices, and that's somewhere we'd like to go next, I think. You get lovely full books. I really like the look of them, where you can put in images in each page and have a recording for each page. So I'd love to do that, something like The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Again, a story that the children are familiar with. It's not too wordy, and they would be able to choose when they're turning each page and be able to play to listen to each page. So I think that would be a fantastic resource to have in a nursery. So there was a question about, sorry, I'm just, I can't quite see everything at the same time. So the button where we got them, these I think were from TTS as well. It was either TTS or YPO. Those are the two educational catalogues that I tend to flick through and choose from. So it'll be one of those. But these are called talking tins. So if you Google them, I bet they're available. You could probably get them on Amazon even. They'll be available in lots of places. So that was primarily our oral resources. But we did want to incorporate written text. I didn't want to just have foreign language books and just put them on the shelves. I don't think that would be enriching. I don't think it would really click with them. I know many years ago, I used to babysit for some Dutch children, and they would take me a book in Dutch, and I couldn't read it to them. I could have made a stab at it, but it would not have sounded like Dutch. So although I think it's nice to have out books in other languages, just putting them on the shelf, I don't think has much benefit. So we tried a whole project to do with them. It was towards the end of the year, so we didn't do as much as we'd planned. But one of the very fabulous early years practitioners made this fantastic book for the children, Language and Culture. So what we thought we would do is we actually went with 3 different stories that the children would know. So I've got farmer duck, and I've got that in Mandarin, Spanish, Russian, and French. And farmer duck's a nice one because it repeats with the animal sounds all the way through. And animal sounds are a really interesting one to talk about in nursery. And a cow doesn't actually say moo. A cow makes a moo sound, and we say moo in French. They say moo, and in different languages they have different words for what the animals say. So that's quite fun to do. Brown bear, brown bear. This one's all about colours. So we've got that in Hindi, Arabic, and French. A lot of they're all in French because I already had them in French. And then my personal favourite, we're going on a bear hunt. A lot of repetition in this, so you can, although it's got a lot of language, you can do it with children. They've got actions to do with it. They've got sounds to make. It's repeating so they know what's happening. So it's a fantastic book to use. We've got that in Farsi, Bengali, and French. And this was what the early years practitioner used initially with the groups. The plan is to also use the other books with groups as well. And first of all, I've put blue tabs over the children's names and faces, so that's why there's all this blue throughout the book. Just asking children, what do they know about language? We're learning Mandarin with Mrs. Adams. We speak English. We're learning French with Madame Miller. My family speak Hindi at home. My Papadaki can speak Greek. So there's finding out what the children know was the first step. And then talking about the bear hunt and what they remember about the bear hunt, doing the story with them in English, and then talking more about it, but starting to look at the covers here of the different language ones, and they acted out the stories together and did lots of activities on going in a bear hunt. And they looked, oh, here they are acting them all out outside. Then they looked at the different languages, and they had an opportunity as well, because we were quite keen to give them a chance to do printmaking and getting to see different scripts, different alphabets that are used. So here's Farsi for snow and storm, and then they've had a go at that underneath. So they got to they got to have a go at the different printmaking, because on Bear Hunt, when you get to the pages with sounds, it is very lovely and clear. There's stumble trip. Sorry, your splish splashes. So you can, sorry, my iPad automatically zooms around to put in a face, so it just went to the other picture from where I wanted it there, sorry. So they got a chance to do the printmaking as well. And then they got to hear it. They got to hear it in lots of different languages. I got to read it in French. We had great fun doing that. And we got a parent in to read it in Farsi. And we knew this parent was happy to be involved and keen to have different languages being done in the nursery. So we approached them to ask if they would like to come and be part of our pilot project. You see here, my dad came into nursery and read the story in Farsi. So they got to hear the story over and over. Children at that age like to hear stories over and over and over and over. So this worked well for them. They enjoyed getting to hear it and have that experience. Also, it let parents come in and feel valued, feel that their language was valued and that and recognised within the school, within the nursery. So that's what we did. And then the plan is to have a literacy corner where we'll put those storybooks out. But now when the children see them, they'll interact with them as books in different languages. They'll recognise they're in different languages in a way that they wouldn't if we just put them out. They'll recognise that there's different scripts, even though they don't know those scripts. We're hoping that that will be beneficial for the children, seeing those, looking at them, and that they'll get more out of that. It will be interesting to see, because I'm not in nursery this year, I've not seen as much as I'd have hoped to with them interacting with it, because I know if you work in a nursery environment, you'll be used to children opening up a storybook and they're going to say the story, and it's sort of what's written, but it's their memory of it rather than the words. And it would be interesting to see sort of how many children would open those ones and pretend to be speaking another language as opposed to be actually doing it in English. So that would be interesting to find out. All of these ideas are also beneficial for pupils with additional support needs, pupils who are children who would find a full specialist lesson in a different language challenging. They can still interact with the storybook, still interact with the displays. So although perhaps for them a full lesson in Mandarin, a full lesson in French is not going to work for them, they can still be exposed to different languages. They can still experience different languages in a very positive way. So our next steps are, for this year, we'd like to increase the collaboration with families, encourage families to share their cultural traditions, their songs and stories in another language. Sometimes I think we can get into, it's Chinese New Year, so we're going to do Mandarin now, and linking language and events, and it's fantastic to do that. We want to make sure we continue the language throughout the year as well, and aren't just doing it at, for a particular event. So it would be really lovely to have workshops or cultural events where families can actively participate. We do sometimes have that, parents coming in and sharing some of their languages and traditions for a particular event. But it's nice to keep that going and not have it just be the one, this happens at this time of year language. I would like to source speaking toys in other languages. You know, the ones that the children have at home anyway, the annoying ones that sing songs and do stories. I think they would actually be of really good value to have within the nursery setting. My children had those when they were younger, and they were talking about them the other day. So they do have an impact, although it might depend on the nursery, because it is very annoying having toys that play lots of tunes and things. Another next step is I'd love for, on that display with all the bits, it's fallen down, I'd love to have everyone's face in nursery with them saying hello in their home language. Sure, most of them will be hello, it could be hi or hiya, but for some of them it'll be a different language, and I think that would be a wonderful thing to have up. Something I forgot to say about this, if you get this particular one, you're supposed to put 2 screws in the wall and then hang it on the screws. But then if you take it down, you're left with 2 screws. So we put sticky on Velcro. So now it comes off and on nice and easily, and it's safe when it's taken off. So that's what we did for trying to take in lots of different languages that perhaps none of the staff actually speak, but to take them in and to celebrate the languages spoken within the home community. We already, as specialists teachers, we use resources within the nursery. For me, the most important thing is flashcards. Having visual aids, having those, I think that just makes such a difference. I find whenever it gets to something which you can't have a flashcard for, I find that is much harder for the children to take in. Days of the week, for example, there's so many days of the week songs you can be doing all these things days of the week, but without that visual representation to link it to, that can be harder for them. So for specialist teaching, having pictures of everything that you're teaching is very, very valuable. I prefer it to be photos, but honestly, I don't see a difference between whether I have a photo or a picture of a cartoon picture of anything, it doesn't seem to make a difference to them that way. But the visual representation is really important. It also then allows for more games, because you put them in the different corners, and now we can play corners. Or, ooh, can you guess which can I guess which card you can see, because I'm just seeing the back of it, and can I guess it right, for another listening game, and then can they guess which one I'm looking at. There's so many games you can do when you've got the actual visual there. Oh, and storybooks. Every week with nursery, I like to read them a story that fits around their learning. Obviously, there are so many books on colours out there, so many books on numbers. Over the years, we've created a really good library so that we can be reading books. But you can also, if you don't have the budget for that, or you're not sure which books, you can't source the books that you want, you can also, this one just happens to be here, sticky, just put stickies over all the words if you want, if you don't want the words to be there. Or if you don't want to permanently use stickers, this was one that someone else did before, post-it notes. If you trim off the note part and just left with the sticky part of post-it notes, I've used those a lot for when I've got, oh, that's a really nice book about something, I'd like to use that with the children. Just pop that over all the words. They can't, and it can be any language you like. You can write over the top, or you can leave it all blank. So storybooks are a fantastic resource, but you don't have to have got that, source them all in the language if you have the language skills to translate it yourself. What else do we, and of course, songs. There are so many songs out there. Songs can be really weird if you're going with a traditional song or a traditional rhyme from the country. I mean, just think of how many ones in English, hickory dickory dock. That makes no sense. But there's also a lot of great valuable ones out there with really, really good language. So it can sometimes be an adventure, trying to choose through them. I found on YouTube, I've spent many, many hours choosing songs. But sometimes when you found a playlist that someone's made, that's a really good way to find lots of songs which have really good language that the children could enjoy listening to, could enjoy singing along with, because they've often been curated lists. I don't know if my lists are public on YouTube. I will have a look and see. I don't think I can link things later, so I should have thought of that in advance. So yeah, songs and music, books and storytelling, and having your visual aids, which will really also help with games, are all really great resources to keep the children engaged if you're doing specialist teaching. Thank you very much for listening. Are there any questions or ideas related to the use of multilingual resources in nursery? If anyone's got any ideas or examples that would help others, that would be brilliant to hear. There is a separate, I'm sorry, I've got it tap on my screen. There's a separate question and answer space from the chat space, but you can use either. There's nothing in the question and answer at the moment. Lovely sound examples there of animal sounds from Ollie. Where do you get good nursery level resources from? I make them mostly, to be honest. For storybooks, Amazon, I've bought from French Amazon quite a bit before. And for flashcards, I'll just make them. You can, I think, I can't, I'm trying to remember if on Linguiscope you can still get pictures, or if that's because I printed them off a very long time ago. I'll just I'll Google for images, there's lots of there's different sites where you can get open source images that you can use. For games, just looking up any games that could be used, any 5-minute game ideas can often be used in other languages as well. For recording, I'll tend to do those myself or ask the children to do them. Oh, the children really love to hear themselves on the recordings. So if you have, so it might be nice if you were doing recordings on these sorts of things for displays, if you asked perhaps an adult who speaks the language to tell the children so they can say it. They really love hearing themselves. A favorite game for nursery. I like to go fast with games. I think nursery is not an age to spend 5-10 minutes on the same game. So when we've learned our 3 or 4 bits of vocabulary, which I find to be enough for one session with nursery, first of all, I want to do listening games. So I will hold up our new cards, our new vocabulary, and montrez-moi avec le doigt. Get the children to point to and say the different bits of vocabulary, and they have to point to the right one. I always end up with saying them really, really fast. So if we've been doing crocodile and elephant, I'm going to end crocodile, elephant, crocodile, so that we end up laughing, having fun, pointing to each of them. But I've been assessing whether they know them all, whether actually Sange was just a little bit too tricky, we've not got it and need to practice. Once we've done that, can you guess? So I hold up the flashcards. I don't have any flashcards here. Let's just pretend this is flashcards. I can't see the front. Sometimes I can see the front if the cards are see-through, but that's okay. I let them win. And I have to guess, say un crocodile, and they tell me oui or non. Depending on where they are in their learning, if I've got it wrong, which I do lots, then they need to say it in the French, so that they can, and then they get the point. And it's the first of us to 5 points that's the winner. Then put the cards round the room, have a quick game of corners, and then and then I can have a look, and I could have a look at card, and which card is it that I'm looking at. So that's a sort of example of 5 minutes of games. I would go straight from one to the other, no pauses, no taking time with it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, if you would like, is I can go and show storybooks, because I find choosing storybooks to be exceptionally hard, because you're looking at reviews on the internet and hoping that it will be an appropriate one. So I'm going to have to pop across my classroom to go and get them, because I hadn't planned to do this. So I'm going to go and get those. I'm back in one moment. So it's any books that we use are ones that often they'll be familiar with in English, because often the best books are put into French and English. This book is a staple in my storytelling. We can use it lesson 1, so we can learn mummy. We can use it for numbers. It has different numbers of animals all the way through. You can use it for colors. I use this one, and a surprising amount for one tiny small book. The children have to speak, of course. Once I have, I said, regarde, il y a 2 lions, 1, 2. Et le garçon, il crie. And when I do this, they have to shout, maman. If that's appropriate. For some classes, it's not appropriate to be getting them to call maman, depending on what's happening at home. So then I might just get them to shout, Oh no, we don't need to tell them the name of the book. Petit Poisson Blanc, there's Petit Poisson Blanc that does colors, Petit Poisson Blanc compte, which does numbers. They're really nice, not too much vocabulary going on. We're counting in this one. The other one we're doing colors. This is a game of hide and seek. So it's a really nice ones for them being able to follow and without too much language, but still having really good language in there. Monbus, super for numbers. I'm just going to pull this over. And de toi, petit chat, also very good for numbers. And I'm sure I've got another favorite number one. For colors, Petit Bleu et Petit Jaune is great for, when you've only taught them a few bits and you want to read them a story, but actually they can't have a full color story. They all don't know that many. So Petit Bleu and Petit Jaune, teaching Bleu and Jaune quite early on is great for this one. It's about two colors. They're best friends. They go on adventures together. They have a hug and all turn green. It's very sweet. And oh, my book's falling apart. Les citrons ne sont pas rouges is a funny one with colors. I really, really recommend that. And which other color one? And toutes les couleurs. That's another good one at nursery level. It's just a few words per page. I use this one every year, Je veux manger, for teaching please and thank you. There's a little princess. They're often familiar with her. It's a silly little book, brilliant for doing please and thank yous. And then it depends what topics you're doing. When we start to do colors and animals, I seem to have an awful lot of books about chameleons. So, il fait comment le caméléon? It's got colors, it's got sounds. And Ours Blanc, dis-moi. So I think if I had to go for favorite nursery books, these ones are all very, very good ones to use with them. Sorry, I feel I've gone on about storybooks quite a bit there. Are there any other questions? Someone else asked about the tech for the moving screen. It's not me. I don't know. Well, it is me, but I think it must be an update to iOS. Because it was a surprise to me. It goes a really big distance following me along. It would be, yeah, it's a really useful thing. I don't think there are any more questions. So thank you so much for giving up your evenings to come and listen. I hope this was of some help to someone and of some interest to some of you. And I wish you a good evening. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.